Hey guys, I am Ibigandscary and I'm bringing you a replay on Cloud Kingdom featuring the red Protoss Lexor versus the teal Terran fitzgen. Yeah, it looks teal. Maybe it's blue. More or less. Fitzgen, I believe, is a platinum player and Lexor is a gold player. Both of which I'm sure are very respectable at their crafts. Cloud Kingdom is a very large map featuring a very easy to take natural right down a small ramp choke. There is a larger ramp right here blocked off partially by some destructible rocks, so you can widen that up if you favor a surrounding play, maybe the Zerg style, Zergling Infester. The third is a little bit harder to hold just because the ramp is totally wide open. There's a third avenue of attack right down here. As well as a long walk from the natural expansion. Fitzgen already throws down his supply, working on that wall, just to make sure that if Lexor gets a probe out here, anything slower than absolutely immediate, then he's not going to get a scout out. However, Lexor pretty much sent it out as soon as he got it. And so he does get a scout, not super important, super early in the game. However, he does spot that Fitzgen did not grab that early gas, so he knows that whatever's coming out of Fitzgen is not going to be the most tech-heavy play you've ever seen in your life. Lexor doing some good micro as well as Fitzgen. He got some good shots off, and he tried to block off Lexor's escape with a well-placed supply depot. He just dropped it down, worked on it for a second, and then left it, just so that wall off was complete, and now Lexor isn't going to be able to get back inside, throw down a pylon, or do a gas steal, or anything sneaky like that. Lexor moves off, takes the Zelnaga, while Fitzgen sends his own SCV down to see if Lexor did anything sneaky, which he really hasn't, besides throwing down that early assimilator and grabbing his first warp gate, or gateway. And his cybernetics core is on the way, so we can see that since Lexor's got his probe up closer to the natural expand and a cyber core already on the way, we know that he's going to have some warp gates, which is going to do worlds for reducing the large rush distance. Maybe we can see some early pressure out of Lexor. It could be, though, that the way the map's set up, it really favors that macro play, at least getting some sort of expansion. Lexor sends his probe back in just to take a look-see. He notices that an SCV is down by the natural, so it's pretty safe to assume that Fitzgen is going to grab an early expand. By early, I mean 19 supply. Command center does go down, so it looks like both players, or at least Fitzgen, is favoring that macro style. We can see, since Lexor did send his first probe in there without dropping down a pylon, maybe he's going to be content to play the defensive. Lexor does bring his unit down, and by the way it's positioned, it's pretty obvious that, yeah, there goes the natural. So both players content to play the defensive for now, pick up a nice, comfortable defense so that they can push out later in the game. Fitzgen getting a bunker down in the front, as well as 2 extra barracks. Make sure that he's prepared for any sort of aggression that's coming out of Lexor. Lexor grabbing another assimilator, so a lot of gas. An excellent place for this pylon, allowing him to warp in any units on the low ground, as well as the high, for a defensive purpose more than anything else. A robotics facility going down very early. Only a single gateway out of Lexor before he grabs that robo, meaning that if he decides to do any aggression, it's going to be a very long time. It's going to push for that early immortal, or maybe even go straight to Colossus tech. That would be nigh insanity. However, he is gold, so hey, maybe he knows something I don't. Orbitals coming up, just going to give that extra boost to the economy. And those 2 extra gateways are going down, so it looks like Lexor just has a very well-timed plan. He knew that the map was big enough. He knew that Fitzgen wasn't going to be able to put out any early pressure, so he went just a little bit more greedy than normal, getting that robo early, and it's definitely going to pay off for him, even with the handful of Marines that are out. If Fitzgen decides to push out, Lexor's warp gates are going to be up in time, and he's going to be able to scramble a defense fast enough. At the tech lab, we see that the combat shields are on the way, going to provide a little bit extra buff for those Marines as two stalkers sneak in through the front door, I guess, just right along in front of that bunker. Unfortunately, there's just too many Marines, and with a pretty quick scramble by fitzgen, he's able to take them down without losing many workers at all. Yeah, 2 workers. 2 workers. Not quite worth it. However, this observer's coming in. He's going to see that with those 2 stalkers taken out of play, fitzgen's feeling more confident, and he's going to send in his own Marines to see what Lexor's been up to in the interim. Good saturation on both of their naturals as the 3rd and 4th gases go up. Lexor is supply blocked, which is why he's not warping in any units. He's got 500, 600 minerals, and he knows that if these Marines had been coming straight into that natural, this would be devastating for him. Unfortunately, they've taken a detour to check out that 3rd to see if Lexor did it. Right there, because Lexor was supply blocked and he wasn't able to scramble this defense, all he would have had was that Immortal and a Sentry, and this would have been absolutely devastating. As things are now, those Marines pick off both sentries, kite back to deal with these 2 zealots, and this Immortal's going to be left totally by himself to deal with 6 Marines. That Immortal cannot fall. It's a ridiculously huge investment at this time, and if these 3 Marines succeed in taking him down, and he's got 100 hit points, but with these 3 zealots on their tail, they probably won't be able to finish it. If he had invested in stim instead of combat shield, this might be playing out differently. But as things are now, that Immortal walks away with 40 HP left. Again, that Immortal staying alive is very key to Lexor because it represents a huge investment. Back at fitzgen, he's got a single weapons for the infantry up. Starport coming up while the factory builds the reactor. Those 2 are probably going to swap. He's probably going to get a bunch of medevacs out to support his heavy Marine play. 2 extra gases are going up, and we're probably going to see fitzgen, because he feels confident, he feels pretty assured that he's dealt a serious enough economic blow by taking out that whole army, that he's probably going to push out and take his 3rd with this command center, which is being built, probably be transformed into an orbital command before he moves it out, but he's in a comfortable enough lead to see that done. Twilight Council's out. You can see he's already researched the Zealot legs, which is going to be very helpful with the Immortal Zealot play. And these High Templars are going to be great against the multiple Marine force that we can see fitzgen's going to be fielding. There goes that reactor switch, and we already have a medevac almost done. As the level 1 weapons infantry for Lexor goes out. Armor starting for fitzgen as he starts to pool in some extra Marauders into his play. That'll be handy in dealing with the Immortals, maybe some of those stalkers. Fitzgen is definitely going to be able to contain Lexor as long as he continues to field a presence on the map. He feels it. He's looking to move out right now with a single medevac. You can see he's probably going to get joined by 2-3 more medevacs. We might even see some drop play coming from them. Factory's coming down to scout, to make sure that there's no 4th, make sure there's no 3rd eventually. 6 gateways total with that Robo Bay, and the Templar Archive is researching Storm, which again is going to be key in dealing with this swarm of infantry units. There goes that Orbital Command. Orbital Command's going to be moving off to take the 3rd, undoubtedly. Yep. So while he's doing that, fitzgen is poking down in the bottom right corner. He'll come over, check the 3rd, see if there is anything in the 3rd, maybe push up to deal some damage in the natural, or if he's feeling clever, he might be thinking about a drop with those 3 medevacs. They should be able to pick up pretty much everything he's got there, and yep. So these 3 are going to come in. However, Lexor was thinking ahead. He had his observer based pretty much right on his front door. Maybe coming out would have given him some extra warning. As things are now, fitzgen's going to be able to drop his entire army in Lexor's main and just decimate that mineral line. Lexor is reacting pretty quickly. He's moving his units up to deal with that pressure while he's warping in several zealots. Fitzgen, however, 1 step ahead, jumps back into his medevacs and retreats, having done plenty of economic damage. And you can just see how much both characters were focusing on that because nothing was being built at that time. Some heavy micro right there. Lexor is feeling the pain, though. He is significantly behind. He hasn't done nearly enough damage to fitzgen. That small amount of harass that he did early on really didn't do much, and he knows that he's so behind that he's going to have to start taking risks. Evidently, one of those risks is to grab this third without knowing exactly where the army is, and unfortunately, fitzgen's army is within a stone's throw of that third. So unless he moves his main army down to protect it, it's going to go down in rather short a rather short amount of time until he notices it. 2-2 on the way for fitzgen as the 2-2 just started. 2-2 just started for fitzgen. 2-2's been on the way for a little while for Lexor. That's what I was trying to say. Lexor dealing some damage up in the third for fitzgen, basically saying if I can't have one, you can't have one. However, fitzgen had a decent amount of army left over. Well-placed storm, though, deals some significant damage to that, as these zealots are going to be able to wrap up the rest of that. However, Terran army is such that it just keeps streaming in. At the same time, fitzgen's taking advantage of knowing exactly where Lexor's army is, coming in and dealing significant damage, decimating basically the entire natural. Lexor's army is significantly diminished. He's going to continue to be pushing in. Fitzgen, again, knows what's coming, so he decides to pull back his primary expansion back into the main. Fitzgen comes in. Primary targets are the pylons to unpower these producing buildings. He knows that Lexor's going to be able to field a pretty sizable force if he can continue to warp in units. However, with those two pylons going down, there goes six of the warp gates, leaving only 4 left. At the same time, Lexor seems to be caught in a choke right at this ramp. He's not being able to stream in the rest of his zealots to deal all the damage he needs to while this base race rages on. Fitzgen's got a significantly larger armor, and he's dealing more damage to Lexor's infrastructure. However, at the same time, you can look up here, Lexor's got 500 minerals. If these probes get away, if even one of them gets away, he's capable of building a nexus off in the corner. And these armies will eventually have to clash or continue this base trade. If Lexor is capable of taking out every single one of these and fitzgen doesn't have the presence of mind to lift one of them off, he needs to save, yes, there we go, he needs to save a single flying unit from this. He's got the factory up in this corner, however, it's damaged. If Lexor comes down and does some damage to that, that could have been game. However, fitzgen, lifting off his orbital command, he's basically ensured the longevity of his army as they continue to pick off this infrastructure. Fitzgen's basically leaving a couple of buildings behind. I think he feels comfortable with the size of his army against the size of Lexor's army. And I have to agree, he definitely has an advantage. If these two armies were to meet face to face and Lexor got a really good surround with these zealots, then things might play out in a more favorable way. But as things are now, the mobility of this force, being able to load up in these medevacs, being able to stem and come in and hit and then retreat quickly, is going to really cause Lexor some problems. However, he's done a fantastic job just cleaning out this base. There really is nothing left. So all he has to do is find the few straggling buildings. You saw that a couple of the barracks lifted off and set down over here. And down in the bottom right corner, Fitzgen's landed his orbital, and he's going to be able to call in the mules from the energy reserve that he has and slowly build his economy back up. You can look at the supplies, though. It's going to be quite a while before any of these people are capable of building anything. Lexor's got his army in position. He's doing some nice damage to these barracks. At the same time, Fitzgen's coming up. He knows where Lexor is, and Lexor does not know where he is. So he's positioning his army exactly where it needs to be and going to come in and hit him in the back. Stalkers fall while the meat shield is directly underneath the bunkers. If those zealots really needed to get in there and do damage, but this army is just cut to pieces, and Lexor has no choice but to call GG. That was a great game. I really don't have much to say on that, except Lexor tried for a base trade, and he lost too many units on that initial attack up here. Fitzgen's economy was just better, and the small amount of harassment that Lexor did at the start with those stalkers didn't have enough of a payoff, and he was put on the back foot then, and he just never recovered. That was a good game. That's it for me, guys. I'll see you around. Bye.